welcome to the second review of the evening. Up this time is Himno, a it's a platformer. I do know that. I'm not exactly sure what kind of platformer. This game's been a bit of a mystery, and here's Galax to tell us the solution.
Sorry, I had my mic muted. So yeah, this is supposed to be a meditative exploration game, mostly with no actual combat. Apparently, the sequel coming out does have combat. I don't know why. But yeah, so you are a little person with a big sword that you never use in a pretty much dark area. You explore the ruins or whatever, picking up various things that the game keeps track of. You have a statistics window, and in every version but the Switch version, there are also other achievements. But there's very little explanation of what stuff does, and that was one of the biggest problems I had with this game when I first played it. I literally did not know what I was doing. And they say there's no violence or death in this, but you sure as hell can still fall in the water and have to start your run over. So
one might even call that death.
Yeah, it's calling it no death is kind of semantic, I think. So there are a few things you can pick up. One of them is little green shards that are on pedestals. Those are teleportation keys, I think. There are a few keys. You get a controller prompt at the start of every run that tells you what the controls are. That let you. There are some keys dedicated on the controller that let you teleport to different areas of the map. There's always one right by the exit of each district. You start in District 1, and then I think it just numerically increases districts. Like each one, I don't know if you can skip them. Apparently, there's an achievement in the other versions for reaching District 11, which is kind of the end game, but also not exactly. There are little yellow crystal shards that will appear when you get kind of close, and then you can collect them if you get closer, and those increase your experience, which increases the level in the bottom left corner of the screen. The level does not do much aside from track your progress. The thing that it does is that it gates which wisps you can free. And the wisps are a bunch of little floaty things that surround you for a good chunk of time, not permanently after you free them, which you have to match the level that they have visible over them to do. Pettyfane, I think you keep double tapping down, which is what makes you fall faster.
That's controller, the joystick, sometimes I actually slide it down.
So yeah, there are, the guide says that there are 8 kinds of wisps. I only ever saw 5 of them, because I never got higher than like level 11. You can actually level infinitely if you want to, because jumping gives you 2 experience and dashing gives you 4 experience. And while you can wall jump in this game, you can also single wall jump by jumping off the wall and then dashing back towards it, and gain altitude that way pretty much infinitely as long as the thing goes up. So if you feel like it, you can. It's not a good idea to grind that way, but if you find a wisp that you can't quite pick up and you want to pick it up, you can do that. There are also a couple of weird environmental things. There are torches that light stuff up. There are bounce pads which emit light, and then there are dash crystals or whatever that if you dash through them or in their space, it'll give you a way bigger dash. But yeah, the wisps have different effects, like letting you jump more, letting you double dash, because normally you can only dash once between touching surfaces. There's one that I think lights stuff up. There's one that collects experience gems automatically, and there's one that lets you cling to the wall. Those are all the ones that I got. The guide that I checked says that there's also one that lets you float down slower instead of falling. There's one that guides you to the way to the next district. and there's one that just spawns experience gems randomly. So, but those require you to be higher level to start with. So yeah, there's not actually much in the way of a point to this game, especially without achievements to get like gamer score or whatever for. It's just when you pick up a gem or something, the music changes, which is supposed to be, meditative or whatever. It's fun. The controls are a little bit slippery, and I get that part of the point is that you're supposed to be calmly exploring a dark area, but sometimes you really can't see what's going, and I have more than once fallen and had nothing between me and way, way far below the water that makes you restart your run. I only ever got to like 6 or 7 districts, I think, just because I always ended up falling in the water before I got to another one. So yeah, the game, the biggest flaws I have with it is that the game really does not explain anything other than basic controls. And also that weirdly, it has a really long initial load time on the Switch. When you boot it up, it loads for like almost a minute. Or at least it did on mine. I don't know why that is. And just, yeah, it's a little bit dark. It can be hard to find your way around.
Also, it loves bloom for some god-awful reason.
It's the light effect, yeah. The bloom is just how it does the lighting effects. So yeah, if you like the visuals you're seeing, and you want to just play around with them, then it's not a bad game. But it's well, like we said, it's free on Steam, and on the Switch, I think it's only $5, which I think it's worth. Also, as I said earlier, there's apparently a sequel coming out to Steam soon, and probably other things later. The Switch particularly later, where that'll have an actual combat system in it. So if you like the aesthetics but don't like the idea of exploring with a big sword on your back with nothing to sword, then that might be something to look into in the future when it comes out, or keep an eye on the progress of. But yeah, the game tracks a lot of your stats, but other than that, there's not really a huge amount of pressure to go forward, I guess. Do you guys have any questions?
No.
Not really.
I'm good.
Helps that, as you said, the game's free, so.
Yeah, and this one is a roguelike game, but they didn't make it.
Yeah.
So it does actually have some options even on the Switch, although not a ton of them. Because I've noticed a trend that a lot of their games don't really bother that much with the options menu.
I suppose you couldn't help but notice, given how many you've covered. Probably will end up coving.
So yeah, it's a cool little game, but there's not a whole heck of a lot to it, is about the bottom line that I come to. So.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, they've released another two Switch games.
Wow.
And I think they got another one coming this week. Like, they are, if nothing else, very, very prolific in terms of how many of these things they do. And anyway, I think that'll about do it for Himno. Coming up after the break, Twilight Winter will be reviewing an automated frontward-facing auto-scroller called Trip Trip.